We're going to have some fun. So I know you've been sitting here all morning, but today we're going to talk about words and thoughts and how they influence pain. Was anybody here for the presentation that I gave, I think in January? Yeah. Oh, I remember you. Yeah. You asked me a question afterwards. I never forget a face. So the objectives for today's section is to understand the efficacy for hypnosis in pain management, and it is well established. To discover the role imagination plays in hypnosis, and to learn some hypnotic techniques for your patients. I'm actually going to teach you some of my favorites, so you can be mini hypnotists by the time you leave today. So back to that efficacy on pain management, I have tons of research. It is well researched. And it's pretty clear that this is a viable alternative for managing pain. If you want that, please reach out to me. It's Roberta at FARE, F-A-R-E, hypnosis.com. Happy to send you my resources. I want to just give you a brief overview, though, and remind you about what is hypnosis. Hypnosis is nothing more than a heightened state of awareness and focus where you're open to new thoughts and ideas. And any one of your patients that comes into your practice that is in pain is already in a slight state of hypnosis. Trust me, they are uber focused and aware of that pain that they are experiencing. And therefore, your words and how you work with them are extremely important, because they are going to be taking that in. Their subconscious is activated. In the subconscious mind is very literal. It's literal. It's not logical. It doesn't know how to reason. It's literal. So I have a lot of clients whose doctors have said to them, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. You're just going to have to live with it. And the subconscious mind hears, live with it or die. And because of that white coat syndrome, and the same applies to every one of you in this room, you're the professional, you know what you're doing. The words that you speak are extremely powerful for these patients of yours. So I just also want to reiterate that hypnosis is a natural state of mind. I'm in my 11th year of practice as of next month. And what I can tell you is I firmly believe that it is our subconscious state that is natural, and it's interrupted by our consciousness. You are in and out of hypnosis so often during the course of the day. And so what hypnosis involves it involves two things. It involves a trance state. And this is just simply how fast your neurons are firing. And I know you guys know this, but I want to remind you, beta is where you all right now are. I hope you're awake and you're listening. Alpha is the first trance state. And that's where most of us go all the time during the day. You guys have been in an alpha trance all morning this morning, I guarantee you. You take that little mini vacation and then it's like, oh, she said something that was really interesting. I better pay attention, right? That is alpha trance. You watch TV. Some people sing. Some people go there when they garden. They just get involved in their task. When you go and watch a movie, you are in that trance state. The other part of hypnosis is the suggestion. That's what's the difference between meditation and hypnosis. Hypnosis is kind of like meditation, the state of, with a menu, with a purpose, with a reason for doing it. I work in the theta state with my clients. That's a very deep state of trance. It's that state just before you go to sleep, where you're kind of aware, sort of, but it just doesn't bother you. The conscious mind is way there in the background because it's ready to turn off and go into delta, which is sleep. So that's the different states. You can actually get suggestions in the waking state. We do all the time. People are telling us things. We're giving ourselves suggestions all the time. Right? Like right now, I'm like, is your voice too loud? I don't know. We'll see. So we are in and out of this all the time. Now, what does this mean for you as a chiropractor with your patients? It means that you're in a very powerful position to help them in ways that you had not imagined. And today, I'm going to teach you some of my favorite techniques to work with pain clients that you can use when you get them into alpha trance, that will have some benefit for them. Okay. Maybe not to the same degree that they would be with me when I have them in theta, but still will be helpful to your clients. So I'm really excited to share that with you. You go through these trance states at least twice a day. So people say to me, well, I can't be hypnotized. Oh yeah, you can. You are always doing it to yourself. It's how the brain functions. It's not a belief that I believe in hypnosis. It's just what our brain does. So every day when you go from wake to sleep, you go from beta to delta, you are going through those trance states. You are suggestible. You are open to suggestion. So tell your patients when they wake up in the morning, the same thing happens. Wake up and say to yourself something simple like, every day in every way, I get better and better. The subconscious mind is going to interpret that in any way that it needs in that moment. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. They'll be able to use that internally for whatever it is they need in that moment. Just making that simple change, suggesting that to your client every day before they go to sleep and when they wake up will change their lives enormously. So you all have been sitting all morning, except for those bathroom breaks we all had to have after the incontinence talk here. So I want you to stand up. And if you're at home, stand up, get out of that chair. And I want you to pretend that your finger is now a pencil. And I want you to draw circles in a clockwise motion on the ceiling. Just let your hand start going, draw those circles, and then slowly bring your hand down. Just don't stop drawing those clockwise circles. That's right. Right in front of your face. Keep it going. Good job. Now down lower to waist level. And I want you to look down at your finger, keep them going, and tell me what you notice. What do you notice about your fingers? Notice anything different? Are they still going clockwise? No, they're not. What? Well, did you stop? Did you stop your circles? No. So what changed? What changed? What changed from up here to up here? Who said it? Somebody. Your perception changed. Everybody sit down. That's right. Your perception changed. And here's why this is important. Because perception of pain is what happens in the brain. It all happens here. You know that. We have receptors in our body that send signals to our brain that says, hey, something is wrong here. And this is why when you have chronic pain, when everything has been done that can be done, the body heals. And so if your patient is still having pain, something's gotten their wires crossed here, right? That gate is still open and they're perceiving pain that really doesn't need to be perceived anymore. Because it is all on perception, because it is based on what they've been told it's going to feel like. Oh, I just cringe when I hear the doctor said I would have this stabbing pain. How does he know? You don't know. Every one of your patients experiences pain differently because it's perception. Maybe they had a neighbor. I had a neighbor who had a bilateral knee replacement. I did not spend much time with her before my surgery. Why? Because, it was horrible. And she just took so long to get over it. I didn't want to hear that. Those are powerful suggestions for everybody. Having both knees done at one time is a little bit frightening as it is, right? So I don't want to be surrounded by anybody who's going to give me their ideas of what I should or will feel. It is based on experience. And anxiety is like this. We take something that's happened in the past and we bring it with us and apply it to everything, no matter what, whether it's appropriate or not. Pain is that way too. We had some kind of a knee pain. Oh, that's going to definitely affect my shoulder surgery, right? It's going to be the same. No, doesn't have to be. But this is what people do in their minds. So pain is perception. And because the primary purpose of what I do with a client is to change their perception, this is why hypnosis works, folks. So the power of your words is really important. When you are talking to someone about what they feel, the first thing I'm going to beg you to do is to stop using the word pain. Stop. Your mind goes to what it focuses on. Your patients are already focused on their pain. They've been telling themselves they have this horrible pain for a long time, right? So stop using that word, because what we focus on expands. When I first started as a hypnotist, I had a great mentor. He was a nurse anesthetist in the Navy, and he actually they would fly him to different carriers when they had patients that had to have surgery that couldn't tolerate the anesthesia. He would do hypnosis with them. And so he was a great mentor for me. And he's the one that said, don't ever use the word pain. So, because nobody likes it. It has nothing but a negative connotation, right? It's a powerful suggestion. So I thought, okay, I'll use the word discomfort, because everybody can handle a little discomfort, right? Everybody can handle that. But really, is that even where we want to focus our thought, is on discomfort? No, because that's just going to expand too. We want to focus on how they want to feel. We want them to focus on their level of comfort. So when you ask on a scale of 0 to 10, where's your pain? Change that. This is a simple thing. Change that on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the most comfortable you could be, and 10 being the most discomfort. Where is your comfort level? So you're always focusing on your patient's level of comfort, because that's why they're coming to see you, to be more comfortable. So you want to focus on that. Super, super tiny little, but important change. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how the power of words work. Many years ago, I had a frozen shoulder. They ended up doing surgery on my shoulder, the typical stuff, right? It's day in, day out. I'm in and out in an hour. I'm thinking, no big deal. I got a birthday 2 days later. I'm going to go to a party. Everything's going to be fine. Now, when I was 28, I had major back surgery and found out that I don't do really well with any kind of pain meds. I don't tolerate them well, except for morphine, which they don't like to give you too much of, obviously. So I was not keen when they gave me a prescription for opioids. And I got 3 of them. Out of the 30 days they gave me, I just had the pharmacy fill 3, just in case, right? Knowing that I wasn't going to take them. I'm sitting there getting the IV. The nurse is asking me all the questions. Did you get your pain meds filled? And I said, yeah, I got 3 of them. And she stopped. And she said, oh, you know, people think this is the simplest surgery because it's in and out, but this is one of the most painful surgeries you can have. I'm going to write a new script. I'm going to have the doctor write a script, and your daughter's waiting for you. I'm going to have her go to the pharmacy and fill it, because you are going to need this. Now, I was not a hypnotist. And honestly, this woman was trying to take care of me in the best way she could. Her intentions were good. But I have to tell you something. I took every one of those 30 days of opioids, called the doctor, and got 2 more weeks. I slept on the couch because it was the only place I could be so comfortable when I slept. I had the worst pain I've ever had. Now, I fully believe, as a hypnotist, had none of that been said to me, I would have been at my party in 2 days with no pain, because that's how it works here. But because she was so sincere, and because she should certainly know, I've never had shoulder surgery before, I had extreme pain, one of the most painful surgeries I've ever had, quite honestly. So let's fast forward that 2 years later, and I'm having my bilateral knee replacement. I am now a hypnotist. The hypnotist that trained me got me out of pain. I couldn't even walk the grocery store. I had so much knee pain. But when I still had to have the surgery, even though I didn't have the pain. Obviously, hypnosis doesn't fix my knees. I was just falling downstairs all the time. They'd just give out. So because of the work I was doing, I only had a little window for recovery, elected to do both at the same time. And so I knew that those receptors were going to be going crazy. They got 1.5 pounds of metal in each knee now, and things have been torn apart and bones have been cut. It's a major surgery, right? So I prepared my mind with how I wanted to envision my recovery, made a recording of exactly what I wanted. And I listen to that every day. I practice a breathing technique. And I associated that breath with total comfort. And I would concentrate on how good my knees felt. So that after the surgery, of course, my knees were screaming to my brain, something is wrong here. But because my brain could say, hey, we know what it is. This is healing pain. You're going to feel better. They're not going to hurt anymore. You got knees of steel, right? And seriously, those are the suggestions I gave myself, right? But I have to tell you, my surgeon, who I truly loved, when I made the decision to do the bilateral, he literally pounded on the desk and said, Roberta, you're making the best decision. You're probably going to cuss my name every time you hear it for 6 weeks. And I just went, oh, don't take that in. Don't take that in. Don't take that in. Because what was he saying? I was going to have so much pain. The sound of his name was going to make me angry, right? I actually went down to my car, called a colleague and said, I want a session because I don't even trust myself to get that suggestion out of my head, right? I didn't have to take any pain meds. But let me tell you what did happen. Even as a hypnotist, I wasn't aware. Every day in rehab, because I was in rehab for 2 weeks, they would come in and they would say, on a scale of 0 to 10, where's your pain? And I would say, 0. Oh, you must be feeling something. You must be feeling something. Every day, 3, 4 times a day, people would come in and ask me that. And finally, I got worn down. I said, well, they feel a little stiff and swollen because they were, right? Well, guess what happened? My knees stayed stiff and swollen for a whole long time. I just took that suggestion in that I gave to myself. This is the power of our words. Okay. So I want to do another exercise with you. So I want you all stand up. People at home, stand up too, because you're not going to get lazy with me. Here is an example of what I'm trying to say. I'd like you to close your eyes. If you need for balance, lean against the table. But I need both of your arms out like this. And I'd like you to turn your right hand with your thumb up and your left hand just stay like you're gripping a bucket. So just close your eyes and listen to my words and follow my instructions. Imagine that left hand has a bucket in it. You're holding on to the handle, it's red. And I'm putting a shovel full of sand, wet sand in that bucket. And you feel your arm just gradually go down a little bit because it's heavy. And I take another shovel full of wet sand and I put it in there and it's just a little bit heavier. And at the same time, I've tied a helium balloons to your right thumb. And those balloons start to rise and that thumb gets lighter and goes up. And another shovel full of sand goes into that bucket and you feel it just go down just ever so slightly. It's getting so heavy, while that other hand is just so light and airy and free and it's going up and up and up. Beautiful. Now, I'd like you to keep your hands where they are and open your eyes and look at your hands. Are they in the position that they were when they started? Some of you, yes. Some of you, not so much. Okay, take a sit. Sit down. This is the power of your imagination. And more importantly, because you had the thought that one hand was lighter and the other hand was heavier, that is what happened in your body. Your thoughts become things. So what are your patients thinking about their situation? It's important. It's important, if this is true, that thoughts become things, that you learn to choose your thoughts wisely. So listen to your patient's language. Help give them other words. Okay? Very important. The brain cannot tell the difference between what is real and what you vividly imagine. So the more, and this has been proven with hundreds of really good scientific experiments. I have a whole list of them. Actually, for those of you online too, I have a book. It's a little dated on the opioid piece right now. I wrote it when the opioid epidemic started becoming front page news on hypnosis as an option. And it's got like 5 pages of scientific research and experiments at the back. If you want that in a PDF, send me an email. Happy to send it to you. The other thing about the brain and how it processes pain is it cannot tell the difference between physical and emotional pain. It doesn't make that distinction. So it processes all of that the same. 25% of chronic pain clients have never had surgery, never had an injury, never had an illness. It is emotional pain. That is where I specialize. And with chronic pain patients, whether it started as an emotional cause or it started as a physical cause, I can guarantee you if they've had it for more than a year, there is now an emotional component because they've lost their job, they can't support their family, they can't pay their bills, they have no self-esteem, they don't have confidence. It becomes emotional, and that chronic pain will persist until that emotion is cleared up. And so that is where I can be also a huge resource. So in hypnosis, the bottom line is you can decide how you're going to experience pain. Why does it have to feel like a sharp stabbing pain? Why does it have to feel hot? Why does it have to feel numb? They can decide how they want to feel it. It's truly incredible. You can, in hypnosis, change the volume. In other words, turn it up or turn it down. So on that pain scale, my comfort scale is how I like to refer to it. If they're at a 7 on average, I'll ask my client, what would you need to be at in order to get your life back? You know, I've never had anybody say 0. I've had a couple joke and say, well, I'd like it to be gone, but I know that's not possible. Oh, there's a belief. It's not possible. Someone has told them it's not possible to get rid of this feeling. Okay. I know that's not true. So they'll say, oh, well, if I could have a 3, yeah, I could have my life back. And I'll say, okay, we're going to go for a 3 versus, or a 3 or better. How about that? Okay. Because they've already said they believe that's possible, right? So that's a good sign for me. So, they get to experience how they want to experience that pain. And I'll ask them, if you could feel it another way. I had a guy who had, oh my gosh, the name just of the disease just escaped me. Oh, senior age thing going on here. So he had these terrible, like muscular spasms. You guys are going to know what it is. And his neck did this. Thank you. Yep. And he couldn't stop it. And it had done that for many, many years, many, many years. And he couldn't sing. He couldn't hardly eat. He couldn't drive. He couldn't read. I mean, think about it. If you're doing this all the time, how do you stop that, right? In about 6 sessions, it was barely noticeable. He was driving. Of course, it caused a lot of problems in his relationship because that changed dramatically. Wife, he was no longer dependent on his wife anymore. And so she ended up sabotaging some of that work, and he had to come back, and we had to address the emotional component of all of that. But basically, a lot of that kind of thing can be in their mind. So what we want to do is I want you to be able to know how to either in the beta state with a waking suggestion, or how to preferably get them into alpha. And you can do that like this. Because remember, when they are in a state of discomfort, of pain, they are stressed, and stress is a powerful emotion. And so they are already in that alpha state. Trust me, they're already there. But the way that you can induce alpha trance easily is by having them belly breathe, just diaphragmatically breathing, because we know in your body, when you breathe diaphragmatically, nice deep breath in, belly breath, slowly exhale. I don't care if it's in through the nose or the mouth, doesn't matter. It stimulates the vagus nerve. And under the vagus nerve's job, where it runs under the diaphragm, is to send a signal to the brain to produce calming chemicals. It's an autonomic nervous system response. And you can't You can't produce adrenaline and cortisol while you're producing endorphins. So it is the way your body naturally, organically knows how to calm itself. And like our speaker before said, when you are relaxed, the pain isn't as great. When you're tight and it's constricted, you know that. Often I'll have clients, I'll say, okay, I just want you to bend over like you're going to touch your toes. You guys can see me, the people on camera can't. And I'll say, don't try, just there. Now take a deep breath in and let it out. And that's what happens. And the more they exhale on that exhale, the farther down they'll go with no effort. It's just how our body works. We're relaxing. We're sending endorphins, serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin. Our brain is the most amazing pharmacy, better than any morphine, Xanax, Lunesta, and Viagra that you're going to find. But a lot of times that needs to be woke up too, because we become so chemically dependent in this world. So the breath is the first thing you do. And you can do this while you're adjusting them. The techniques I'm going to show you now only take a few minutes. Okay. So work it in to your practice. I know you all practice differently, but work it in. Have them just take a couple of nice deep breaths. Have them close their eyes. Why? I mean, we can do, I don't have to have my eyes closed to be in hypnosis. I'm in hypnosis now because over there where I was sitting for the first couple of minutes before, I did my deep breaths and I said, great presentation, great presentation. My subconscious mind takes that suggestion because it's so well trained after all these years. It goes, yeah, great presentation is going to happen. No worries. I got your back. Right. So closing their eyes just takes away the distractors. Okay. It makes them focus more auditorially on what you're saying, which deepens the alpha trance. Okay. So the first thing that you can do, have them take a nice couple of deep breaths, watch them. As soon as they go into alpha, those breaths get slower. In theta, there are times where I've had to literally put my hand in front of someone's mouth to make sure they were breathing. Their breath was so slowed. Great tool. Hypnosis is for regulating blood flow, slowing down the heart rate, reducing blood pressure. We know that these are physical functions that hypnosis can positively impact. First thing you want to do is summon the power of their imagination. This is one technique. Imagine. So you can have them, I'm going to give you an example of how I use this with a client. She had come to me, was referred actually by Tria, by their pain people. And she was older, in her mid 70s, and she had just terrible neck problems. It was a mess. She had stenosis, lots of arthritis, stuff that's not going to get better as she gets older, and it's just not going to go away. And so they had really kind of run out of options for her. And she didn't want to have surgery because she wouldn't be able to drive. It would limit her neck mobility too much, right? So I asked her, have you ever had a time that you can remember, because cells have memory, right? When you didn't feel any discomfort in your neck? And she was like, well, they gave me this shot. It was the most painful thing I've ever had done, but it was right in the occipital nerves with this huge needle, and it was agony. But for 24 hours, I felt nothing. It was great. And I said, oh, okay. So I had her go to her happy place, which is the last technique I'm going to talk about, which was in the mountains by a lake. And I thought, she knows the needle works. That fluid they put in her, she described it as magical. So we were going to go to magical with her imagination. Every day I taught her self-hypnosis. She would put herself literally dropping a finger, took her 5 breaths, 1 minute to put herself into a deep state of trance, like she was with me. She would imagine her happy place with the tiniest needle, like it was going into a cotton ball in her neck, and that magic fluid poured in there, and she felt nothing. And I told her, so I want you to tell yourself that for 2 hours, that magic fluid's going to work, and then it won't. And so she went home, she started practicing it. Next day, because I see my pain clients frequently, because I don't want them to go to a whole week and have a technique not working when we can try something new. So she came back in 2 days, wanted to practice a little bit. And she said, oh my God, for 2 hours, I didn't have any pain. And it was just as bad as ever. And she was like so disappointed. And I'm laughing. I'm thinking, you didn't have pain, anything for 2 hours, lady. And I said, geez, if you could do that for 2 hours, do you think you could do it for 6? And she said, do you think I could do it all day? And I said, why don't you give it a try? And so every day for the last 5 years, she has no headaches. She has no pain in her neck. She does her little 1 minute of hypnosis, gives herself that imaginary shot, tells herself it's going to last all day, and it does. And before she goes to bed, I don't know why she just doesn't say forever, but this was what works for her. Okay, this is what works for her. She gives herself a shot again so she can sleep through the night, and she repeats, rinses and repeats, and it's amazing. That's the power of the imagination. This is how we use the imagination to change sensation. Okay, I'll tell you one more story that even today boggles my mind. But this is a testimony to the power of the subconscious mind when it comes to pain. I had a client, 20 years of severe chronic back pain, totally disabled. There's nothing to be done for him, the doctor said. So I said to him, well, that was before he knew we were going to use hypnosis. Of course, there's something you can do, right? So nothing was working. He didn't believe, he just wouldn't give in to the fact that he could turn down the volume. He didn't believe that he could change how it felt. And one day, I'm getting a little nervous it's not going to work for him, because it doesn't work for everybody, by the way. He came in and I said, okay, so did that technique I taught you? No, that didn't work either. And so I said, what do you think it would take? Like, what do you think you could do with that pain to get it out of your back so that you could have the life you want to have? And he just got real quiet and he said, well, what if I moved it somewhere else? And I said, oh, what if? Well, if you did, where would you want to move it? How about my little left pinky nail, not the finger, but the nail. I want it to go in the nail. And I said, great, that's what we're going to do. So I helped him go into hypnosis. And I said, I don't know how you're going to do this, but you do. And you take as much time as you need to take that pain from your back and send it to your little left pinky fingernail. And when you've done that, you just tell me, let me know. 5 minutes went by, which is an eternity in hypnosis, an eternity, let me tell you. And he said, okay, it's done. That happened in my 3rd year of practice, which was 11 years ago. During COVID, I got an email from him and he said, just wanted you to know, I got off the golf course. It's great. My little left pinky fingernail hurts like hell, but I want you to know I have my life back. And this is 5 years down the road, right? I don't know how he did that. I don't care how he did that. His imagination did it. And for him, it worked. So for me, with pain techniques, it's about experimenting. So I'm going to teach you, other than an imagination thing like I did with my client, right, that I gave you an example of, or with him, one that you can use really easy. So you can help a client visualize, because 75% of the people are visual. And even if they are like me, when I close my eyes, I see black. I don't see anything. So never don't use the word see, because you're not going to help 25% of the people say, I don't see anything, is black. Okay. And now you've lost credibility and trust. So you can imagine that discomfort in your body. It feels like the beach ball, the kind you get at the dollar store. It's colorful and you blow it up and so big you can hardly put your arms around it. Now you've had them breathe. They got their eyes closed. They're imagining this, right? You're telling them a story. Imagine that it's so big they can't handle it. And it just falls out of your arms because your arms get tired holding it. And it rolls off into the lake or wherever. And you look down and there's a basketball there. And you think, oh, how interesting. And you pick that up and, that's easier to hold on to. It's more comfortable, isn't it, to hold on to the basketball, but still your arms are getting a little tired. And after a while, you just kind of let that go and it drops and it rolls off. And you look down and there's a baseball And you think, oh, that would be better to hold on to. And you pick up that baseball and you hold it in your hand. But after a while, even that is a little bit heavy and you get tired of holding on to that too. And you just drop it and it rolls away. And oh my gosh, there's a ping pong ball. And you pick that up and it just fits so light in the palm of your hand. You hardly feel that it's there. And you could just tuck it in your pocket and not even know that it's with you. That is an extremely effective metaphor. And the subconscious mind loves stories. It loves metaphors, right? And you can see where I was going with this, right? The heavy stuff we're dropping, it's rolling away. We pick up something that's a little lighter. We're working them down toward that, hey, it's nothing. I can carry that around in my pocket and not even know it's there. And so when they're doing their self-hypnosis at home, I'm having them think about that. I'm having them redo that story in their mind, or they're just picking up that lovely, light little ping pong ball and carrying it around and not even noticing it, like it's hardly there. So this is a nice technique. Another technique that you can do very easily, take a breath, close your eyes, take another couple of deep breaths. You're going to have them be sitting in their car because most cars still have a volume knob for the radio, right? And they're going to imagine that they're, in the driver's seat, passenger seat, whatever. And they reach over with their hand and it has numbers 0 to 10 on it. And in a moment, and I know you're not going to like this. You tell them that. I know you're not going to like this, but you're going to imagine that you're turning up your pain. You're going to use that word because they don't like that word, right? We don't want that word in our vocabulary. From 0 to 10, all the way up as close to 10 as you can get it. And the second you're there, let me know. And we're going to turn it all the way back down. And so I'm like, okay, now reach out, touch that knob all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. And I'll get really animated with them. And they'll say, I'm there. And I'll say, good, turn it all the way down. Turn it off if you want. Now, I have them open their eyes and I say to them, so how high did you get it? Oh, well, I could only get it to a 6. Okay. And where is it now? How low did you get it? A 1. Now, even if it only moves, if they said from 6 to 5, guess what they did? They just proved to themselves that they can control their pain. They cannot argue against that. They imagined turning up their pain and then turning it down. When you do that with a client, oh my gosh, they are bought in to the fact that they might be able to feel better one day, even if they can't do it in the moment. It just takes practice of turning down. And they can envision that in so many ways. I have a guy that he has a music studio. Oh my God, we're playing with buttons and knobs all the time, turning things on, turning things off, turning things up, turning them down. I just put him in his music studio. He's in his element. He's in his happy place. And we work at turning things off or turning things down. And then that leads us to the happy place technique. And let me tell you, this is effective. I have to say, when I had my knees done, they sent me to like a pre-op thing. And most of it was just like strategical information, right? You're going to do this and this is what's going to happen when the nurse comes in and yada, yada. But the nurse that gave the talk at the very end of it, I wanted to run up and hug her. She said, I've been doing this for 26 years. And I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to be the most important thing out of this whole talk. When you get in your car to come to have your surgery, go to your happy place and really imagine being there for the whole time you're here. And you're going to find this is a piece of cake. Oh, man. And I just thought, oh, my gosh, can you train your doctor? Can you train all the other nurses? Because this is so true. Putting someone where they feel comfortable. I always ask my clients, what is the place that you're in that you're the most comfortable, that you're the happiest, that you love the most? Might be the beach, might be the golf course, might be, who knows, the mountains. People have, what season is it? I mean, I want them to involve all their senses in that happy place. What's the air feel like? What's the temperature? What do you smell? Right? Really get them into that visualization of that happy place. Why? Because we're stimulating all those endorphins, all that dopamine, man, they feel good. They feel good. And you say to them, this is how you want to feel. You can feel this good anytime by just on the wings of your breath, is how I like to say it. Give them that metaphor. Take that nice deep breath in, close your eyes and exhale and take 4 or 5 more of them. They're stimulating that vagus nerve. Those endorphins are going to start flowing. They're going to feel better. Even just the breath, that's all I used for my surgery. That's it. A 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. So this is really, truly amazing. Then the last thing that you can do is give them what I call post-hypnotic suggestions. Now, these are suggestions I give when they're in a deep state that they will carry with them into their conscious state. Okay, into their conscious waking state. And usually I'll just say, oh, today you aren't going to believe the color red. Red is going to jump out at you all over the place. And every time you see the color red, you are going to know that just with a simple breath, you can relax and feel better. So I'm going to tie that post-hypnotic suggestion to something that I want them to experience. And then the next time they come in, many of them, not all of them, an analytical person probably won't see red. So I say the number 5. Oh, the number 5 is going to be everywhere. You're going to notice it every time you write it, you see it, you say it, the number 5 is just going to jump out and you are going to feel so comfortable and so good, so relaxed, right? And they'll come in and say, can you just please turn that off? I'm tired of seeing red. Well, what that tells me is that they are open to holding on to the suggestions that I'm giving them. And so in your position, you can give them post-hypnotics without being deep like they are with me, just in that alpha state. You've had them breathe. And then you can say, before they open their eyes, you can say, you know, because you've done this simple thing today, because you've had this treatment with me today, right? Tie it into what you've done with them. You're going to have the best night's sleep you've had in a long time tonight, right? And you just tell them what you want. You don't have to give them a choice. You don't have to say perhaps. Just casually say it. Or you're going to find you take less medication, or your muscles are more relaxed and the adjustment lasts longer, right? Whatever it is that you want them to experience, give them that post-hypnotic suggestion before you have them open their eyes and send them home. And then just ask them, make a note when they come back in for their next session with you, say to them, hey, you know, I remember before I sent you out of here, I suggested that I just thought you might have a really good night's sleep. Did you notice? And they might think about it and say, wow, you know, I did notice that. I had been sleeping a little better. It's great. If they didn't, well, maybe it just wasn't meaningful to them. The subconscious mind is going to take in and interpret whatever you say in the best way for them. When I train new hypnotists, they are so scared of saying the wrong word. And I tell them all the time, here's a great CYA, a cover your ass, okay? At the end of every session, before you emerge them, you just say the simple sentence, and your subconscious mind takes everything that's happened here in the best way possible for you. Because that's what the subconscious mind's going to do. It only takes in what it wants to hear, okay? So yeah, anything like picking up their children, you know, because we're loosening up your back and getting you in alignment, you're going to be able to get down on the floor and play with your grandkids, whatever it is that's going to motivate them. And these are things that you need to find out in your interview with them. Maybe you do that, maybe you don't. But if you don't, maybe you want to have a little thing. Tell me about your work. Tell me about, because I want to know what kind of job they do. Because I can use that in my sessions, right? So can you. What are their hobbies? What are your favorite places to be? What do you like to do, right? What do you want to do that you can't do now? You all should be asking that question. That's motivation. That's fodder for what I'm talking about here. What would you like to do that you can't do now? Because that's what we're going to work for. That's a goal, right? And then you're constantly working that in to just your talk. Remember, you guys are the professionals. You're the doctors. They trust you. They take what you say, their subconscious mind, literally. So that can be good. It can be bad if you're not watching what you say. You have a great influence over how your patients feel. So I hope we're just about time here. Oh, we are 10 minutes. Questions? Yeah.
Thanks, Roberta. We do have a question online.
Yeah.
Any additional suggestions for working with kids?
When I leave here today, I'm working with an 8-year-old. Children are totally different, but children are super easy. Up until the age 7 or 8, children literally do not have a logical mind. It has not formed in their brain yet. This is why they all believe that Santa comes and delivers presents to all their houses on the same night. There's nothing that would allow them to even question that. Why do they believe that? Because mom and dad said so. It's literal. So with children, I work with children very differently than adults. Short spurts. They're in and out of that suggestible state all the time. And so again, watching your words, but giving them specific suggestions. A lot of times with children, it's a lack of control. It's fear. It's always fear with children, and they don't feel like they're having control. So if you're having trouble maybe adjusting a child, that they're afraid, like maybe they heard their neck crack, or it made them uncomfortable, whatever, or they're afraid of a table, who knows, right? You want to just say to them, look, make a game out of it, because they love games. Try to find out what they like and relate it. Like the kid that's coming today, he loves Legos. He's a very analytical little child at his age. And I'm using all of that. I got that from his parents, right? What does he like? What does he play with? What kind of games does he play? Been a long time since I had an 8-year-old, so I had to go online and look at a couple of them, so I knew. But I'm going to be tying all that in with him. And so find that out about the children, and then just let their imagination, they live in their imagination. So the table is like a rocket ship, right? And see this part that moves here, it's like the wings of the ship or whatever, be creative with them. And when you get on here, you're going to feel so powerful. And you know what? If you need me to wait just a minute until you get comfortable, that's okay. I'll wait. You just tell me when you're ready. Right? I had another 8-year-old a few years ago that had to have teeth pulled, and he needed braces. And they don't like to give 8-year-olds a lot of drugs, right? And so they did give him some Novocaine, but it didn't work. And the kids started screaming when they started pulling the tooth. And rather than stop, they held him down and pulled the tooth, which I think is a lawsuit needing to happen. Now, the child wouldn't let anybody near his mouth. And if he didn't get the braces on soon, he's going to have major surgery. And so the mom is like, can you help me? Can you help me? I'm like, sure, we can help you. It only took 3 sessions, but you know what it was? Because she was like, oh, it's the pain and the fear. Of course, that was a factor, but the big factor, he needed control. He needed to feel like someone was going to listen to him and be in control. And so she finally found an orthodontist. I had an appointment with him, and I said, look, this is how I'm working with him. These are the things I want you to say. He was very receptive. This guy was amazing. And I said, the mom's going to pay you for this. I want you to pretend you're doing something in his mouth. I do not want any chance of any pain, anything negative. And if he tells you, wait a minute, I need a minute, you give him as long as he needs, right? Do you know that they got 2 things put on his front teeth that day? It was amazing. Like the mom was just ecstatic. And within a week, he had his full set of braces. But I worked with him. I gave him a special, I'm always looking through my drawers for magical things. Actually, I have the magical thing for my 8-year-old in this pocket. It's a stone. And because he's into magic, and this is going to be his fear and anxiety. And so this is what he's going to hold for that magic he needs to be strong, right? And so he can carry this around, but I'm not going to even take this out until near the end of the session. And I'm going to say something to him, you know, I brought something really special today. I wasn't sure if I was going to let you have it, but working with you, I can tell you're going to do really well with this, and you're responsible enough, and you're going to be really good at this. So I feel comfortable giving you these powers, right? What am I doing here? I'm giving him tons of suggestions. I'm calling on his imagination. I'm giving him something physical, because when I give it to him, I'm going to set an anchor, and I'm going to say, every time you hold this in your hand, you feel like you're in control of your mind, right? You know, you can tell that fear, go away, right? We're going to be working on that. So now he's got something physical that when he touches it, his mind is going to go right there to the feeling he wants, because I'm going to connect this to the feeling that he's in, where he feels good. Okay. So there's lots of things. I would just encourage you. There's so many things you can do. You don't have to be a hypnotist to do it. Yeah. We have another question.
Another question online. Thanks, Roberta.
Yeah.
Since the previous presenter covered pelvic floor, have you ever used hypnosis for urinary urgency with a client? And if so, what was the result? Could hypnosis be effective?
That's a really good question. I have not used it for urinary urgency, but I have done a lot of work with ED with men, erectile dysfunction. Hypnosis is really helpful for that. Most of the time, so first of all, obviously, when I work with any kind of diagnosed condition, I always work with the physician, the chiro, or the therapist. That's just the way it should work, because I am none of those things. Okay. So we all get on the same page. I know what they're doing. We work as a team. A lot of erectile dysfunction is here, right? And I do emotion resolution work with them, and we work on it from that perspective. I have had men, though, that we work on confidence building with performance. Not every person is comfortable in my career working with that. I don't have any problems with it. With working with men in that way. If they get an erection in my chair, I want it to be celebrated, because that's why they're there, right? If they're there getting an erection just for fun, then they're kicked out of my office really quick, because I have actually had that experience. So I get that online too, by the way, which I can usually spot them. But yeah, ED, I don't know if it would work, but here, while I was listening to her, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so true, because it is not just engaging your muscles. Like when she talked about the key in the door, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so mental. It's mental as well, right? So in hypnosis, or in your suggestions and working with them, then yes, I would work on those kinds of things, of how calm their body is, and how maybe, depending on how they were working with him structurally, or you're working with him structurally, I would have them get into that physical state and be there emotionally as well. You have all the time in the world to get to the bathroom, right? You have all the time in the world to put the key in the door. In hypnosis, there's a huge disconnect with time. Some clients will spend 2 hours in a session with me if we're doing emotion resolution work. They feel like it's 10 minutes. That's why I say 5 minutes of hypnosis is like an eternity, because there's a total sense of time distortion in trance. Yeah. Anything else?
We do have one more. Are you familiar with internal family systems model, and have you used it with hypnosis?
Okay. So internal family systems can have a couple of meanings. Can you ask them for more explanation, as I want to make sure I address? There's a lot of techniques out there that are similar.
Yes, if our online questioner can just give a little more clarity and maybe a little bit more depth into that question.
So here's what I will say in the meantime, is that everything is a family dynamic. And my biggest challenge, whether I'm working with a smoker and they want to quit, but they're going home to a house full of smokers that are going to sabotage them. You know, everything's a system. You know that the body's a system. What's happening up here is going to happen down here sooner or later, if it's not already, right? So when I see children, for example, depending on what the issue is, I require the parent to come in for sessions too, because that child needs an advocate at home right? That child needs someone in their corner, and typically the parent's the problem. So that's where I want to start solving it, is not the child. Did you get an answer?
Yeah, it's in specific to the Dick Schwartz work, Dick Schwartz.
Not
Work?
familiar. No, not familiar. So, but if you would like that person to email me, I'm happy to answer that offline. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody here have any questions, any comments, anything you want to add? Because I know you're really hungry and we only have 2 minutes left. So this is perfect timing. Okay, well, I'm going to end here. My cards are in the back. Feel free with anybody to call me with questions. I'm happy to help you. And thanks for having me again.